I'm basically going to go through how I organized JV Challenge, and Google Meets was just a small part of the organization. So what I'm now going to share my screen. So let me pull that up. And I'm going to pretend that, and most likely it probably will be, I'm assuming that this is a completely virtual event. Our JV Challenge was mostly a virtual event. We had a couple of teams that were able to participate in Quick Recall from a home site, their school, but I think we had 3 teams at home and 2 teams that were all at, I think there was 2 teams on site and 3 teams that were all at home for our competition. All right, so what we first must have is a way to organize. And with a little work, we were able to get a Google Classroom to organize our JV Challenge. And so I'm going to post the invitation link so that you all can join if you want to. So here's an invite link. So I will post this, and you all are welcome to join the Google Classroom so that you can see the organization that I had. All right, and can you all see my screen? I can't. All right, yep, okay. Well, I heard a ding dong, but I don't see it. I don't see someone trying to join. All right, so the problem with Google Classroom and organizing it works great, but the problem is district boundaries. We had 4 different districts that were trying to participate in our JV Challenge, and some districts had very strict guidelines. Okay, I see that, Ashley. You can't join. All right, yeah, the training has started, but most of you can hear me, right? My sound hasn't gone away. All right, okay, so let me pull up chat. Well, maybe if someone can reply. I'm not sure what's going on with the sound. And if there's anything else in the chat that I need to know about, please, because when I turn this screen on, I can't see what's in the chat. But the problem with Google Classroom is the district boundaries and who is allowed to join. Just like they said they weren't able to join. We didn't have any problems. I might, if someone wants, if you send me an email, I might be able to invite you, but I don't know if that would help. We did have teachers from all 4 districts join, so that wasn't a problem. I don't know, but we made the coaches teachers. And these teachers are from different districts: E-Town, Hardin County, LaRue County, and then all the students down here. But if you're not able to join, I'm not certain. I'm going to assume it's your own district. I think when you click that link, you become a student. But I have other teachers down here that are students. I see Martina here. She's a teacher that's a student. So I think it's your district not allowing you to join.
Yes, I think that's what it is.
And so that's where the problem comes in. So if you're going to use a Google Classroom to organize, you're going to have to talk to your tech team and see what type of permissions they're willing to give. Some tech people, like in E-Town, were very, very strict and said absolutely not. This Google Classroom is not hosted by E-Town. It's actually a LaRue County Google Classroom that I became a teacher of. And so LaRue County's tech did allow other teachers from other districts to join, but ours said absolutely not. We will not open up Google Classroom for anyone to join except someone that has an eTown address. And so if you don't have the option of using Google Classroom, you'll have to come up with another way. But this, for me, worked great. You're going to see that there's also the same issue with Google Meets, and that's the district boundaries. So just got to take and test and make sure that everyone can join. Under classwork, I have sections for composition, written assessment, quick recall. For district competition, you'll also want to add future problem solving, but that was not an event for JV Challenge, so that's not here yet. Under composition, I really just have two things. I have a composition Google Meet code posted, and I'm pretty certain that most of you would know how to create one, but just to be certain, this is my Google Calendar, and these are all of the events that I had created for JV Challenge. And so I created all of these, and the problem becomes when you create all of them on your own that you have to invite everyone to join. And so just like tonight, I've had to hit invite for every person that wanted to join this meeting. And that can get a little tedious having to invite, especially when you have multiple quick recall rounds going on at the same time. Because I can't be in two places at once. I would go to one match, let people in. I'd go to the other match, let people in, and then just kind of bounce back and forth between the two, make sure that everyone got in. I think for district and region, I'm going to change it up a little bit, but I'll explain that in a little bit. So I just, to create the code, all you gotta do is create a calendar invite. It pops up, and you can put your settings in there. And then all you have to do is, you know, for whatever meeting you're going to have and the time, just click the add Google Meet. And there right here is your code. So that's what I posted. And I do have learned that if you invite people, they get to come in without having to be invited. They get to come right in, which is helpful. So, but I did not take the time to get all the email addresses from all the students from every school to invite them. So, but we didn't have any problems with just me sitting at the computer and inviting everyone in. And so once you have your Meet code, you can save your event. And there it is. I pull it up and I have the little button over here on the side, and that copied so that I could come over here and I could then post the Meet link. So that's as simple as it is to create the link. But the problem is because of district boundaries, when you have different districts coming in one competition, everyone outside of the district has to be invited in. We didn't have any problems with, like tonight, all of y'all didn't have any problems joining my eTown Google Meet. Google Meet is pretty popular throughout the entire state. And so there are usually not any issues with someone joining. Using the code would not work. So I don't know if you all know this, but if, you know, inside our district, I would tell someone, hey, join a Meet, just use the code Hanson and come on in. That does not work when you're across the district lines. Those words that you use for codes are only good for people within your district. Outside of your district, they actually need the link. So that's the first thing I did. And so for our composition, and I don't know how many details you want, but I'm going to tell you all I can just so you're as prepared as possible. But feel free to organize this somehow differently. This is not the only way that this could be done. But our coaches from the 5 teams just decided that there was no need for us to try to invite parents to come and proctor. As long as you have 2 different coaches, that you can't be the evaluators. So as long as you have 2 different coaches that were from different schools that were proctoring composition, then we would just allow all the students into one Google Meet, and we would all be in the one room, and then the 2 proctors, or however all the coaches were there as proctors. One of them, you know, kind of took the lead, And, that's how composition went. Now, for composition, you are pretty much going to be emailed 30 minutes before the event your prompt that's going to be sent out to the coaches that then sends it out to the students. If you're using Google Classroom, it was simple enough for me to create an assignment. I assigned it to the 12 students that were going to be doing composition, and I added the prompt and I added the Google Doc. I do highly recommend the Google Doc version of the written composition booklet. There's also a PDF version that's out there, and I've actually had a kid who, in our league, typed the entire first page of the PDF and then somehow was able to delete that entire first page and not retrieve it. This is a Google Doc version of the composition booklet, and it will expand as you write. It was very easy to use. None of the students had any issues with typing in it. Someone asked to come in. So, let me see if I can find the invite. There it is. But I do highly encourage the use of the Google Doc. And so you will see that 8 turned it in, 4 were assigned but did not turn it in. Even though the students from Hardin County were able to be in this Google Classroom, they weren't allowed to submit their work within the Google Classroom. I don't understand, but they got an error message every time they try to submit their work. And so they just shared their work with their coach. Their coach had to actually make a copy of it, and then they shared that copy with me for me to then change the code and send them out for scoring. But so that is how composition worked. It went just fine. There weren't any issues. If you couldn't use Google Classroom, I know in 6th grade showcase, our local team, I wasn't too involved, but I did have some questions and answered some things. But I do know that for them, each coach had their own, I think they had one Google Meet that they all came to, but that each coach shared their own composition booklet and prompts in their own Google Classroom that they had for their team. And it wasn't one Google Classroom for the entire section, but there's many ways of doing it. But you'll be sent this prompt 30 minutes before, and then you'll have to have a way to distribute it to the team members and then get them back. So, and all we did for Google Meet was our proctoring of the composition. So I'll take a moment and pause for any questions on composition. I don't see any raised hands. All right. Thumbs up if you're good with composition. Oh, there's some raised hands. So I seen Elizabeth raise their hand.
Yeah, I just had a question. So when they turned it in, the assignment in, or the written composition in, and you got it, what did you do so you make sure that you couldn't see their name? Did you mention that? Like to put the codes on there?
So in that booklet, when it was in the classroom, yeah, it had their name attached, but there's a spot on the top for a code, or there was. I think, well, I must have taken, I think the original one had an ID code, but I took it off and I just manually went in, and what I did is I downloaded them as a PDF, and I happen to own, which is nice, or the district has a PDF, the Adobe, not the reader, but the Adobe Acrobat DC. It's the one that you can actually edit PDFs. So I just went in, downloaded the PDF, and then I manually edited and put in a text box with their new code. And so all the evaluators got were the PDF versions in which I had put in the code that was their new code after I reordered it or recoded it. Does that answer the question? So the evaluators weren't coming into the Google Classroom. I downloaded all of them as PDFs. I went in and edited them, put in the correct code based on how you coded them. And then I made little packets and sent each evaluator all of the booklets, all of the score sheet, and the prompts, and the other things Brenda gave me to send out to the evaluators. So then I sent all those out, and then they had from that night until Friday night to get them back to me. All right, I think there was another hand. That was Shelly, or was that Shelly?
Yes. So everyone, all of the evaluators had like basically electronic copy of everything, and there wasn't any paper transferring at
Nope.
all.
Nope, not at all. Not a single paper copy. Every booklet was electronic. Every score sheet was electronic. They filled them out electronically and they sent them back to me. Now, they could download the score sheet and handwrite on the score sheet, but the score sheet, they had their option of whether they wanted to print it out and write on it, or if they just wanted to fill it out electronically and then they sent it back to me, whether they scanned it or they had their document that they just saved and sent those back to me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And real quick, hello, Shelly Loyal.
All right. Any other hands? I don't know if I can even see everybody on this screen. There's 63 of us. So I don't see anything. Got anyone else? Just feel free to jump in if you have a question. I'll move on. Oh, there we go. Jay. I don't see a name, but it's Jonah.
Okay. Will the chief official be setting this up, or who is actually responsible for getting this all set up?
Typically, at least in the competitions I run, the chief official doesn't show up until Saturday. And so all of composition FPS is done by the competition, like the contest manager. So I was a contest manager for JV Challenge. And so I did all of this. The chief official did nothing until, I mean, I have a great friend that is, and she did plenty, Sheila Wilkinson, if anyone knows her, but she doesn't show up until Saturday, and she's, we reviewed the score sheet Saturday, made sure that all the scoring was done correctly, but she didn't do anything of the setup. In your own district, if this chief official wants to be more involved, but I just kind of take it on myself. I don't even ask her to help me because I know that as the contest manager, I've got it, and don't want to take any more of her time than I need to. Brianna, I think, or Heather. It's in between you two. She took it away. All right. So future problem solving. Oh, that's okay, Brianna. The one thing I'm thinking about future problem solving, because I haven't done it yet. In composition, we were able to have one Google Meet that all of them were in, but because there was no discussion, we gave them the instructions, and then they did have to keep their cameras on for proctoring. They could not have their camera on, and so they had their cameras on. But for FPS, you couldn't have them all in one room because they need to be able to discuss. And so FPS is also going to be done by a fillable booklet, but it's going to be a shareable fillable booklet. And so my plan, I think, for FPS is going to be to create different assignments. So I will, instead of having one assignment where I assigned it to 12 students, for FPS, I will have one assignment that I assign to the 4 students from E-Town, one assignment that I assign to the 4 students from Central Hardin. And then inside of that, there will be the fillable booklet that they are going to work together on as a team, so all 4 can edit it at the same time. And then they'll have their prompt. And so that'll be the setup in Google Classroom. And then in the meets, I think I'll use breakout rooms. I'd have one meet that all of us would come to. I would give general instruction to the entire group, and then I would manually move each of the teams into their own breakout room, and then I would have one. So for proctoring, typically our own district event, the coaches are the ones that come. It can't be an evaluator, but it can be the coach, and the coach just proctors a different team. So the E-Town coach would proctor Central Hardin, and Central Hardin's would proctor North, and North would proctor E-Town. So I would drag the 4 team members from each team plus a proctor into a breakout room, and then give general instructions to everybody, and then break them out into their breakout rooms, and let them have their time to discuss in that one Google Meet. So I think that's how I would organize that, because they have to have separate rooms. And I'm sure y'all probably know about breakout rooms more than me. I've only used them a few times, but over here you have your breakout rooms, and you put in the number of rooms. So I see the comment about not having not having cameras. So we are, yes, definitely. If you're not allowed to have them, that's just something that has to be discussed with during the planning meeting, that your team's not allowed to have the cameras on, and so and that should not be a problem. But if they're allowed to have the cameras on, we require them on, and so you can. Oh, all right, I haven't opened them yet, but I think it automatically puts people in rooms, and I would just clear that out because I don't want them to be randomly assigned. But I would have to then drag. And so with 4 teams, that'd be 16 people. It would take a minute or two, but it would not be too bad. I think that would be better than having 4 Google Meets going. And so, and you can even have a timer. That'd be nice, although it wouldn't be the official timer. It still would. So I've not done it yet, but that would be my plan. I see some chat going on. Let me see. Anything I need to? Well, I'm using my home computer, and it's just not the same as my. So if your district hasn't pushed the update to allow for Google Meet to hold breakout rooms, then you would have to just use different meets. You might not be able to have that one central meet to have, but you'd have to have each proctor. Maybe you meet with the proctors all at one time, and then you have each proctor go to a Google Meet that you've assigned. So I have a spreadsheet later for a quick recall that I'll show you that might be able to work for that. Looks like people have sent the classroom invite down there. If the camera goes off when there's a bandwidth problem, that would be no problem. They can just type in the chat message that there's an issue with their camera. We're not here to penalize the kids. We're just, we want their cameras to be on if at all possible, but we are very flexible with that if that's an issue. But yeah, wouldn't disqualify somebody because they were not allowed or had an issue with turning the camera on if they were really trying to do that. All right, I think that's all those. So let's go back. So then written assessment. So Saturday morning, 7:30 is when all the changes to written assessment have to be done. And I, as a contest manager, then downloaded from ASAP all of the written assessment. And before that, I had gone in and assigned everyone a number. So you have to, the coaches will put in the team members, and then before Saturday morning, you go in and assign them all a number. 100s for those that take 1 test, 200s for those that take 2 tests. And then at 7:30 on Saturday morning, once all of the numbering is done and everyone is taking the tests that they're going to take, you download a spreadsheet that had in it the team, the event they were taking, the team member's name, and a password. And what I did is I filtered as an Excel, so I filtered it by the school, and I sent each coach of each team their set of passwords. And for proctoring, what we had was two rooms. About 25 people would be all that you'd want in a room at one time for proctoring. So you'd have to, but if for us, math would only have up to 15 people, and then we had maybe 20 people that were taking other written assessments. I will tell you that the official start time was 8:35, and so I decided that we should probably publish the start time at 8:20 to give us 15 minutes for everyone to get in, get situated, make sure they have their passwords. Along with sending the coaches the passwords, I also then refiltered it by like the math test, and I sent the math tests codes to the proctor for the math test room. So I pre-assigned, and again, these were coaches that we were using, but it could be parents as well. At the high school level, at least in here, we always seem to just use the coaches. So we don't have as many parents, although they'd be willing to help. I don't even ask really. We just do it ourselves. I sent the proctor the codes just in case someone didn't get their password. They could pass it on through the Google Meet. So we had a Google Meet that was for the math. It started at 8:20, but the test really didn't begin at 8:35. And even if they get in before 8:35, it's set up so that when they type in their password, it will tell them a message. This exam does not begin for, until 8:35, and that's when you can start. And so it really did take that 15 minutes to check and make sure that the calculators were correct, that everyone was ready to go and had gone over the instructions on how it was going to work. And so what the students will do is there will be a link on the KWAC homepage that they click on, they enter their password, and it pulls up the test. And when the time is over for the test, it submits it for them if they have not submitted it yet. So timing, although the proctor does keep a general time and say you should have around 5 minutes left, whatever's on your timer, is the official time. And then scoring was, fantastic because it was scored for you. All you had to do is go into ASAP and hit submit, and it was all done, and tiebreakers were done. So no scoring issues whatsoever. So I had the one Google Meet for the 8:20 math. I had one Google Meet for 8:30 for all the other exams. And that was supposed to be at 8:45. And then at 9:30, we had another meet for those that were taking two tests. We did run into a problem in that this was the same code as the 8:30 code. I was just going to continue on, but there were some people finishing up and other people coming in. So next time I will make this its own separate code. And so everyone will have to leave. And we were told, and it's okay for someone to leave the meet when they are finished testing, even if they're taking two tests. They did not have to stay in the Google Meet. Once they were finished, they were to let the proctor know they were done. We used the chat for that. And then once the proctor then replied, yes, you're good to go, they could leave, and then they would join this other meet for their second test. And I would make that a separate code so that you didn't have people coming in while there were still some people finishing. So that is how we organize. Oh, and then I have this written assessment inquiry form. This is something we just created for our own meet. This is not the form exactly that you'll find on KWAC. It just has all the same information. And it's just a Google slide that has a background that's can't be edited. And then it has, you can see all the red boxes. That's where you type the information in for the inquiry. And we didn't use it, thankfully. We didn't have to use the written assessment inquiry form, but that's how they would have filled it out. They would have shared it with me as the contest manager. I would have then shared it with all the other coaches. So that way they had a chance to look at the inquiry if there was one. And then I would have downloaded it and sent it to the chief official so that they had a chance to rule on it after everyone had a chance to look at it and have any rebuttals to it. And so that is what we use for the inquiry process, since it's all virtual. I'm happy to share that with anyone. I have the background image, so you can change the JV challenge part to your own, and then I have the form that has all the boxes on it. So you're welcome to email me and I'll be happy to share it. All right, so that is written assessment. I'll come back here and see if there are any questions on, sorry, what is ASAP? I'm sorry, ASAP is the scoring program. So you will have a head scorer. Now, I'm just one of those that I do everything. So I was contest manager. I was the chief official, and I kind of shared head scoring. But ASAP is the program that you go into to enter all the scores. It's also this whole program that you'll go into to enter your team members. So before the competition, you'll log in to enter all your team members. That program is called ASAP. All right. Any other questions about written assessment and how that was organized? I think you have a question, or it looked like it. Shelly, did you have a question? No, okay, sorry, I saw you waving your hand. I thought that was you having a question. All right. Well, I've kept 58 of you, so happy that you all are still with me, and I haven't. Chris, yes, sir.
Yeah, I noticed I'm going through your Google Classroom as you're talking, and that's super helpful that you shared that. Thank you. I noticed obviously JV Challenge did not have future problem solving. How are you planning on handling that at the district level when you host? Are you creating more documents for that? And is there any chance you might be willing to share kind of what you're thinking?
Well, let's see what I can share. So if I come back here and come to my home site, this is my team. So here's my future problem solving team. So we just had a league competition. On the invite. So in our league competition, this is the booklet. So it's a Google Doc. This is the completed version of the Google Doc. It started off empty, obviously, and it's an editable file. So the 4 team members on my team had their 2 hours, and you know, the original form of this and I'm sure Brenda would be sharing this. I asked her for it because I wanted to use it in this competition. I might be getting too many things going. I might be stressing this computer a little too much. But so this is the booklet. It has to be edited. So that would have, I think, an assignment for each team where I assign. So I just have 4 assignments for 4 teams at the district level. Nope, it's this one. And so I would assign it to the 4 people. I would have in here their blank booklet that they can edit. I would have in here the PDF of the version of what they were doing. And then that's when I was talking about the breakout rooms. I would have one Google Meet that we all came into from all 4 teams. And then I would use the breakout rooms in order to put each team. We would like go over that, that they have see their prompt, that they have their booklet, that they're clear on the instructions. And then I would, once they were all clear, I would move them into their breakout rooms with a proctor, one of the coaches from the other teams, and they would have their 2 hours in that breakout room to complete their booklet. So does that help And I can share the blank booklet with you. Just send me an email. It's Brenda shared it with me. I can pass it along. But this is the booklet that we're using for FPS. And you just go down. I did a little bit of editing. I think originally they didn't have some page breaks in here, so I added a page break after step 2. And the way this works is, you're used to 4 challenges on a page, 4 solutions on a page. So the rule is going to be you have to have at least 4 on a page. But if you have more, that just means if you have only 3 on a page because you've typed so much, then you're typing too much, and those, that's not going to work. But I don't see anybody typing enough. And when you're doing this, they're all renumbered, all pre-numbered, and you just, like the 4 kids can all choose a starting point to start typing in their boxes, and it just expands as you're typing in it. And we had 7 teams in our league just do this last week, and we didn't have any issues with any of the teams on competing in FPS for our league competition. So, any other questions about that? Oh, my email. Sure. Feel free to send me an email. Yeah, I'm sorry, this is so much info. But yes, for hosting districts, you have to think about composition, you have to think about FPS, you have to think about written assessment, and then we have quick recall, which is what's left. So it is a lot, and I know you learned just this week that you were hosting, and so I am more than happy to, when you're actually trying to put this into practice in January, I'm more than available to answer any questions you have. So, all right, any other questions about I don't think you're trying to talk to me. All right, no, okay. We'll move on. So let me close some tabs. So all right. So what's left is quick recall. Oh, I think I closed one too many. Oh well. We'll reopen it. Oh, that's right. Quick recall is the hardest to organize. These other things, it might seem like a lot of information, but it really wasn't too bad. Posting, one Google Meet, getting the assignment going, just a bit of organization. All right, so quick recall is the harder part of what to organize. All right, and so under classwork, quick recall. And so I have down in here an inquiry form, a score sheet. We don't keep official score with the score sheet during these matches. We're using the Quizbo Pro system, and there's a separate teleconference on using Quizbo Pro. I had just a quick recall bracket that I created, and I actually, as I was done with most everything, I would update and repost with the updates as we moved along throughout the day on the quick recall bracket. And then this is the organization piece that made the quick recall go as smoothly as it did, and that's this spreadsheet. I'm going to do this slightly different for district, I believe, but I created a spreadsheet in which I had every round listed, the times. Please plan on these taking longer than you think they will. Ours, I had planned 50 minutes, and most of them took about an hour, hour and 5 minutes. So, this 150 match did not start at 150. It was closer to 2. This one was supposed to be like at 2:40. It was at 2:55. This one was supposed to be at 3:45. It was 4:10. So these matches are going to take longer just because we had very good moderators. It was very well organized, but it just takes time to let everybody into the rooms, get people logged into the Quiz Bowl Pro system. Reading every question takes more time. And so these matches are going to take longer than they have in the past. So the Google Meet codes were populated, and that's the part I'm going to change. Thankfully, I was, as a contest manager, could sit at my computer and I could start the Google Meets at 11 o'clock, and then I could just bounce back and forth. Now I had 2 Google Meets going on at the same time, and so I had to turn my volume down because the sound from both rooms on top of each other was too much. So I had to turn the sound down or off, and I would just sit there and let people in as they tried to join. But it did work. It worked fine, but it was probably the more chaotic part of the day, trying to let everybody in and make sure things were going well. But so on my calendar, I'd created all the matches, I'd posted all the links. So on top of having all of the matches, we also had a quick recall official meet. So quick recall officials always preview ahead of time. And so this started at 9 a.m. And so the officials had their own separate meet. And so what the officials would do is that they came in, we talked to them, we let them start previewing questions. I emailed them all their questions that morning at 9 o'clock. So I emailed all rounds to all officials so they could start previewing. As the day went on, they turned their cameras off, but they were there and they would just put things in the chat if they had a question. Look at round 1, question 4. And so I would let the chief official know, hey, there's a question on this question. So, and then we'd come back, or there'd be, there just would be discussions going on in the chat of their separate meet throughout the day. And then as the matches started, I would go in there and I would post assignments. So round 1, match 1, this person's moderator, this person's judge. I know some places they just let people decide on their own what they're doing in which rooms. So I always assign who's going where, just my organizational style. And so when one match was done, they'd come back, they'd tell me the score so I could update the spreadsheet. I would then make assignments for the next round to make sure there weren't any conflicts with who was in each room. And so it was a long day. I did have some, we didn't have any time scheduled between the matches, and it's just different. Like there was no travel time from room to room. There wasn't an opportunity to go to the bathroom. So, you do need to probably schedule in, 5 to 10 minutes, after a couple rounds to give everyone a break. Because if they're competing back to back, it was as soon as one match was over, the moderator and judge 2 minutes later were coming in and starting the next match. So it did not provide for a lot of downtime. I did have a couple people comment on that. So actually at one point I think before match 8, we had one of the coaches say we need a 10-minute break. Can we so we just said okay, we'll do that. So that is how I organized it. Now how I'm going to change it. If this will open. Next Monday, I am hosting a 8-team league quick recall bracket. And so if this will let me, I will show you it and explain how I'm going to do league a little differently, which is also how I would do, and I'm hosting region as well. And so this will be how I organize the regional. So I think this is, so for the tournament, I knew that I could not possibly be in 4 rooms at once. So we had to do this differently. Someone suggested the moderators creating the Google Meets. But I think what we're doing, and I have such a good group of teams in my area, and these coaches are great, is I have declared one team as home and one team as opponent. And the home team is the team that's responsible for creating the Google Meet code. And so when we're done with round one and we're starting round two, whoever wins between Central and Bethlehem, I'll put them down here and they'll be the home team. And they will then immediately create the Google Meet and post it because I have them as editors in here. And so I'm having the coaches of the teams and the one that I declare as home team when I fill it in the bracket. So I think it's going to take a couple extra minutes to, create the Google Meet code right then. But it's really just creating an appointment in your calendar and posting it, and it's immediately viewable. So I think that will work. So that's my plan. We're going to try it out on Monday and see how it goes. But we're also, the home team is the one that's going to be responsible for Quiz Bowl Pro. But for hosting, try to have for districts and regionals, probably a couple. What I did have, coming back to this spreadsheet, I had 2 high school seniors. Each round, the top round, I had 1 high school senior from LaRue County was in charge of the Quiz Bowl Pro for that match. And then the second match of each round, I had a senior from E-Town that was responsible. And so they knew which matches they were in charge of, and they just, they were great to volunteer and basically run the system for the entire day. So, if those that use Quiz Bowl Pro know that you have to have a match code. I did not put that in here because you can't create them ahead of time. Though the students just joined the matches on Quiz Bowl Pro as the operator created the match. So the operator created the match in live time. They'd come to the room, they'd create the match, they post the code. And so, all right, I talked a lot.
So,
let me
Rex,
process that.
With you, just your organizational style, I love it. But we went to a tournament not too long ago where they pre-populated those Google Meet codes, and they had us take about 15 minutes and have every kid log into the rooms that they would be in throughout the day. And once they were admitted, they didn't have to be admitted again. I don't know if that's
true. That would work. It would be an option. The things I think about that is, what if someone was late? So, and we had a tournament on Saturday in which, as the coach, I was late, and they were doing the same thing as you were talking about. And I was late, but the person that, so I didn't get to join all the rooms when I was supposed to. My fault, but I let the kids did it, and I came in a little bit late. I was just going to watch a little bit. This was, self-motivated team. They're kind of coaching themselves. I was just going to. But I couldn't get into the room because I came in late. So what if a parent wants to join and the person that created the room isn't there to invite them in when they try to come in? So that's my problem, is when I'm thinking, because I did think about that. And as long as everybody that's going to be going into the rooms is there in that 15-minute time period, and they're not missing anybody, that would work. But I'm afraid of leaving people out in that system.
No, that's a great point, and I hadn't really thought about that, but that's a great. They had us meet early to get it done, but you're an excellent point about being late, or if a parent wanted to come watch. So that's why I think having someone responsible to join to do them, because it's really not going to take a minute to create the Meet code. Now, I don't know if it's better to have the moderator do it. If you have an excellent set of moderators that are very techy and can do that real good, then that shouldn't be a problem. But our coaches are very good. So I think that is what we're going to use. And so you just have to kind of figure out, how do you want to create the Google Meet codes, and whether you want to have them all pre-populated and have either a system where everyone gets invited in early. You could get emails from everybody and put the emails in and invite the kids into the rooms. The problem is you have to know which rooms they're going into, and that's kind of hard to know as the quick recall day goes on. I will say, when on, I know of some that
so all of my codes are different. Some did a room 1 and a room 2. And so they had room 1 code, and then that same room 1 code was repeated every time room 1 was used. I thought about that, but the reason I've decided not to do that is because if we do run these very close together, and if one room runs over because of an overtime or an inquiry, and that room is being used in the next round, you might start having people come in and join it. And not that they're going to cause a distraction, but you just never know. It was a whole lot cleaner that they could not get into the rooms until I invited them in. And the rooms didn't start until I was ready to join them, or I was ready to let them in. So I did like having different codes for each round instead of having one room that kind of ran throughout the day, just to eliminate the possibility of people coming and going, or people really joining when another match is going on, because their match got done quicker. So that's why I like the different codes. All right, I have talked quite a lot. So those of you that typed your email address in, if you will send me an email, that would be so much better, and ask me what it is that you want, because I'm not quite sure exactly what you want me to share, because I've shared lots of different things. So if you, and my email again, rex.hanson@etown.kyschools. I'll post it one more time. And someone reposted, I'm not sure. Oh, the mute. My email again. So what questions? The last part is the award ceremony. I'll quickly talk about that, and then I'll just leave it open for any questions that you have. So for the award ceremony, just so you know what that was, I have a PowerPoint. And so it basically, so there's options on what you wanted to do, but we wanted to have what could possibly be a live award ceremony, that was just virtual. We discussed some different options, but we thought that was best. And I really had, most people were there. And so I basically created this PowerPoint. Well, I didn't create the PowerPoint. I filled in the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint was sent to me by Brenda. And so I just went in and filled in all the names for all the written assessments. And you go down, and then you have your composition and your overall runner up and champion for, and so basically the, virtual award ceremony was me reading all of the slides, and it, still exciting. People, I would announce the name before I turned the slide over, so they weren't seeing it before I announced it. And so I also recorded it. And so this is, a video of the award ceremony that I posted that the coaches could have. So, but, it turned out really nice, I thought, to have a virtual event. And we had very few issues, and all I can say is that the amount of time you put into organizing it is, going to be what makes your event go smoother than not. So it really did take a lot of time. I'm hoping that these people that are joining was there a time zone listed on the announcement about what time this was beginning? So I hope those that are joining now weren't expecting this to be starting at 5 Central. I apologize. You'll get to watch the recording. But has anyone had spectators in their matches? How did that work? So we can talk about that a little bit. Spectators will be fine. They just they need to be virtual. If people, I had someone ask this, and this is just my own opinion. I don't know that it's been an official rule, but if you're having your team compete from a classroom, the new rule is that if they are able to compete from a classroom, but one team is virtual and one team's from a classroom, the one that's in the classroom still has to be having their conferences over the video conferencing software so that it's fair when it comes to the discussion of the bonus question. So yes, a team's going to discuss a bonus. They're going to have two options that they're going to think about. They're going to choose the wrong one. Well, what's the other team going to do? They're going to choose the one that the team didn't use. And that's going to be the right answer. Yes, it's going to happen. But it might have happened even if they hadn't heard that conversation. But you do have to have that conversation. So I think that all spectators probably need to be virtual, even if you have it in a classroom, but because they're over a video conference and you're going to have them spread out within the classroom, I don't see how spectators would work within that environment unless they were virtual, and they would just join with the Meet if they had the Meet code. And so that's how spectators would work. Any other questions? Chris, I see your hand raised.
Sorry, I was muted. Standard procedure. I am kind of wondering, you mentioned Brenda sent you a link to a lot of these things. Obviously, JV Challenge is a KWC sanctioned event. So is Governor's Cup. So as a host for districts and regionals, should we expect, and maybe you can't answer this, maybe this is a question more for Brenda, should we expect kind of a list of documents that they're going to send out our way? I've already sent you an email personally.
I received 7,500 emails from Brenda before JV Challenge. So if you can keep up with her emails, you are doing fantastic. So
as a host, like what I'm thinking is if I could put together a Google Drive folder with all of the stuff that I'm going to need, then I can begin to kind of organize it in my Google Classroom and then invite the coaches and get everything ready. But I'm curious whether or not kind of the timeline of that is going to be expedited. Like, are we going to see that before January? I don't know. It's just, I'm a little nervous being a host and trying to do all this myself when we might be getting these emails from KWAC with all these documents anyway.
So, I mean, you'll be sent these items, yes, I'm sure. But I don't know a timeline. I don't know when. I don't know if there'll be changes to the ones that I'm used for JV Challenge. All I know is that she's very flexible and that, you know, what we used worked, and that's all that's going to matter for her is what we're using working. And so, I mean, you can probably start using what I have, and if I send it to you and start organizing. I mean, you all get the luxury of seeing a finished product where I had to build it from scratch. And so, you know, I didn't even know what I needed when I first started. So I just kind of started putting stuff in and just started thinking about what I needed, and it, you know, came together. But you'll be getting lots of communication. I just don't know how fast, and I haven't heard, but I'm sure you can email Brenda with some questions. I know though that this is going to be overwhelming for all of us. And so just be patient and feel free to email me. I'm be happy to answer any questions, usually really very quick with my emails. All right. Anybody else have their hand raised? I know it's supposed to end at 6 and you're more than welcome to leave whenever. Thank you for coming. Martina, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anybody used YouTube Live for the spectators to watch the quick recall.
If anyone did, they can. I've not heard of that, but if anyone did use that, you can speak up. But I don't know enough about YouTube Live to even talk about it.
I guess.
Okay. I know we did like a Jeopardy game, and the teachers from different schools got on using Google Meet, but then they used, I think, the YouTube Live to broadcast it to the rest of parents, spectators to watch. So I didn't know how that, if we could use that for a quick recall so parents could watch.
You could definitely use it. They are not picky about what you're using. They're not going to limit you as long as you are, you know, having a fair event and following the guidelines. You know, they're being very lenient this year to let you kind of organize this the way that you want, as long as it's, you know. So I don't think there'd be any problem with whatever method you want to broadcast. In high school, we don't have an issue. We don't have many parents that come. In high school, they just, you know, the kids start doing stuff more on their own. They still care, I know, but they just, you know, they don't come to these events. We didn't have any spectators for our quick recall. So, but they are more than welcome to join and use those meet links. But any other questions? Jay, I don't know who that is. Jonah.
Oh, I was going to say at our 6th grade showcase, what the host did was she linked it to her personal YouTube channel, and then she just we were using Zoom, so I don't know if that's different with this, but she was using Zoom, and then they were able to watch it on her channel, and she just did the final match, basically.
I mean, lots of options. Andrew? Is that Andrew or is that Jordan? Like, is the hand to go? I don't even.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
I was one of the latecomers. I didn't think about the time change. Rookie mistake, you know. But you mentioned that this is being recorded. How are we going to have access to this? I'm sorry.
I plan on sending this to John, and I'm sure he'll send it out to the host.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I apologize. I've let some more in. I apologize that the email did not have a time zone attached to it. I didn't think about it until just now.
It did.
Oh, did it?
I didn't read it.
Okay. All right.
My bad. That's my fault.
Martina, I'm not hearing anything if you're talking.
I'm sorry.
No, I was muted. I didn't have a question or anything.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I saw your hand there.
It probably popped up. I had to go to the door. Sorry.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate your, you know, being willing to host or, you know, coming to our meeting and just take a deep breath. It's a lot, but just do one part at a time. It will come together. You know, all the JV challenges went pretty well. I heard 6th grade showcase even went better. So, you know, talk to those that have hosted around you. This was how I organized it. It is one way. You use what works for you, and I appreciate all of your all's time tonight. So I'll hang around and see if anyone has any questions. Tanya, did you have a question? Or no?
Yeah, this is Dawn Powell. I just got on at 5.
So it was 5 Eastern time. I'm sorry. So I did record this session. And so I'll be sending this recording to John, who will send it out, I'm sure. I apologize that it wasn't clear in the email about the time zones. But you're free to email me questions too. Once you do receive the recording, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email me. Laura, was that Tanya? I think that hand is still Tanya's.
Yeah, it was me. I was just wondering, I'm actually a FPS coach, and I was just wondering if there's any way that we could get the link for the recording, because I know I don't get any of the emails.
So just yeah, email me. I can send you the link. I'm more than happy to. Just email me. If you're not on, if you weren't on the list that got the original invitation, but that was forwarded to you, yeah, feel free. I will send that out tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Rex, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing everything. It's organized so beautifully. I was just typing you an email asking for you to share everything with me, but it is a work of art. So thank you for sharing and talking to us. I feel better now.
Absolutely. I hope I didn't overwhelm. It's a lot. It is a lot. And I didn't come up with this, in 1 hour. It took me many days and lots of time to figure out how this was going to work. So you got plenty of time, but thank you very much. I appreciate that. And please send that email and I will share everything I have. I don't mind at all. All right, I think I'm going to end it. So thanks for coming. Y'all have a great night.